and welcome to The Big Picture. Today we're looking into the Supreme Court's recent order which upheld the constitutional validity of a law enacted by the Haryana government to bar the illiterate from contesting panchayat polls in the state. The apex court ruled that it is only education which gives a human being the power to discriminate between right and wrong, good and bad. Delivering the verdict, which may pave the way for introduction of minimum education as a prerequisite for contesting polls at various levels, the bench of Justices J. Chelameshwar and Abhay Manohar Sapre said that such a disqualification has to be upheld as a reasonable restriction on people's constitutional right to contest polls. Apart from Haryana, Rajasthan is the only other state to fix the minimum education qualification for those contesting panchayat polls. Well, of course, following that ruling by the Supreme Court, there were mixed reactions to the Supreme Court's observations. For one, what happens to the right to equality? Does this violate that in any way? To help us understand this, we have in studio, we've got the General Secretary of the All India Democratic Women's Association, Jagmati Sangwan, joining us this evening. We also have constitutional expert PDT Acharya with us and also Senior Advocate K.K. Rai. We also have the OSD of the Haryana Chief Minister, Mr. Yadav, joining us as well on the phone line, Mr. Jawahar Yadav. And if I could speak to him first, since he's joining us on the phone line. Mr. Yadav, first of all, how would you see the Supreme Court ruling and what is going to be the next step of the government now?
नहीं, जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जो रूलिंग आई है वो रूलिंग वो है जो हरियाणा सरकार चाहती थी कि हरियाणा का जो भी प्रतिनिधित्व करे, जो भी सरपंच है वो पढ़ा लिखा होना चाहिए। और उसका कारण था, उसमें हमने लॉजिक ये दिया था माननीय कोर्ट के सामने कि केवल सरपंच ऐसा है कि जिसको जुडिशियल पावर भी है, जिसको चेक पर सिग्नेचर करने पड़ते हैं। और अनेकों केस हरियाणा में ऐसे आए थे जिसमें सरपंच को बाद में ये पता होता था जिस पे उसने सिग्नेचर किए वो काम उसको पता ही नहीं था क्या था। इसके कारण अनेकों सरपंच पे फ्रॉड के केस लगते थे। तो उन सबको ध्यान में रखते हुए वास्तव में हमारा जो नेतृत्व करने वाला व्यक्तित्व होना चाहिए वो पढ़ा लिखा होना चाहिए, समझदार होना चाहिए। इसका अर्थ ये नहीं है कि जो अनपढ़ लोग हैं, जो अशिक्षित लोग हैं वो समझदार नहीं है, परंतु जो पढ़ा लिखा व्यक्ति है उसको इतना जरूर होना चाहिए कि वो जिन पेपर पे हस्ताक्षर कर रहे हैं, हस्ताक्षर किस लिए किए जा रहे हैं। तो माननीय न्यायालय में जब ये विषय गया तो उन्होंने हमारी इस भावनाओं को, इस सरकार की भावनाओं को, जिन्होंने ये अमेंडमेंट किया था, विधानसभा में पास कराया था, ये विधेयक लेके आए थे और विधेयक पास कराने के बाद कुछ लोगों ने इसको चैलेंज किया था कि हरियाणा का एक बहुत बड़ा समुदाय निकल जाएगा कि वो अनपढ़ है, इसके कारण वो इससे वंचित रह पाएगा। परंतु हमारा कहना ये था कि जो नेतृत्व करने वाला है ये मौलिक अधिकार उस रूप में नहीं है, मत देना तो मेरा मौलिक अधिकार है, परंतु चुनाव लड़े ना लड़े इससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता। और नेतृत्व जो हो वो पढ़ा लिखा होना चाहिए। उस सब भावनाओं को माननीय न्यायालय ने समझा और हरियाणा के सरकार के पक्ष में ये निर्णय दिया। और हरियाणा दूसरा राज्य है, राजस्थान ने भी ऐसा किया था, उसका हरियाणा राज्य ऐसा है। और इसकी सफलता मैं ये बताता हूँ कि आज अनेकों स्टेट के प्रपोजल, अनेकों स्टेट हमसे जानना चाहते हैं कि आपने ये क्या क्या किया है। अभी मैं इतना लंबा नहीं बोलूंगा क्योंकि और भी गेस्ट है, तो इसका क्या क्या बेनिफिट हुआ, अगर आप मुझसे उससे जानना चाहेंगे तो मैं ये भी बताऊंगा हरियाणा में इसका क्या अर्थ हुआ।
अच्छा, मिस्टर यादव, आप बने रहिए हमारे साथ बिकॉज वी डू हैव गेस्ट इन द स्टूडियो एज वेल. Mr. Acharya, if I could come to you, I started by saying, is this, a violation to the right to equality? As a constitutional expert, how would you view this?
See, this issue has been debated for some time. Now this question is whether there should be a qualification, educational qualification prescribed for contesting the election. Now, first the Rajasthan government did it, and now the Haryana government, and which has been approved by the Supreme Court. Now, without going into the details of the Supreme Court's ruling and its reasoning and all that, I would say there are two aspects to this as I see it. One is that with this decision, a very large number of people who did not have the fortune of getting education will be excluded from the process of empowerment. Now that, in fact, when you look at the segment of the population which normally has been deprived of the educational opportunities, the vulnerable sections of the society, now they don't have any means of empowerment. They are socially not recognized, and they have no participation in the in the decision-making structures of the government. And now this is an area where they could get empowerment, political empowerment. Now they have been deprived of that, or they are being deprived of that. So that, of course, is a very serious issue,
Yes.
which needs to be addressed. But the other aspect is, you know, that legislative bodies are basically law-making bodies. They make law, and the entire procedures are very technical, you know that. And you know, the governance has become very complex now. And people who get into the assemblies and parliament and all that, they must be able to understand what is being done there. Of course, at the panchayat level, that kind of complexity is not there, but still,
Yes.
decisions have to be taken. First of all, they have to understand the whole process, all that. So that would require a kind of capacity to understand things, to read and write, and all that. So these are two aspects. How to
Yes.
reconcile them
That's right.
is a very difficult problem. But I would feel that, you know, we have not achieved 10% literacy and all that. And there are many states where percentage of literacy is very low.
Yes.
And there, if you implement this, then very large number of people will get excluded from the process of, from this political process, which is a very important political process which takes place at the grassroots level. You know, it's a very serious issue, and naturally the government and the society will have to think about it seriously. But at the same time, the requirement of a basic qualification or capacity to understand things is also needed.
Yes,
that's
to
what
some
I have
extent.
to say on
All
this.
right. Ms. Sangwan, what is your opinion on this? I mean, because like we're saying, maybe in the grassroots level, you know, this is some opinions that have come in, maybe not at the grassroots level, but perhaps definitely once, you know, you're of an MLA or an MP level, definitely a certain amount of an educational qualification is required because you're sitting in parliament, you're sitting in those houses, and, you know, you need to have a certain understanding of the subjects that you're going to be dealing with, the ministries that you're going to be dealing with, but perhaps not needed in the panchayat level. What's your opinion of that?
Yes, you are absolutely right. This is our organization which took it up at the level of Supreme Court. And we had basically two concerns. First of all, the exclusion it will be causing, as my earlier speaker pointed out.
Yes.
And the second one, the way this amendment has been put in place. For exclusion, you see, if they are implementing these conditions, then 83% of Dalit women will be excluded, 71% of general women, 57% of general male, and overall 67% of the citizens who are in the age of contesting elections. They won't be able to contest the elections, and this is if we consider the educational condition.
Yes.
If we go for the enforcement of all 5 conditions, then almost 75% of the aspirant candidates or contestants, they will be excluded from this whole democratic process. And as has been pointed out, they are the most deprived sections of our society. Through the 73rd amendment at the level of panchayats, we had made an effort that those sections of our society who have not been in the mainstream of working in the panchayats at the level of leadership, they should be now included in the mainstream.
Yes.
And those were the women, those were the Dalits and other sections. Now, after the implementation of these conditions, they are the very section who will be suffering from this.
Yes.
And the way it has been brought in, this amendment in the Panchayati Raj Act, first of all, it will be having very long-term implications for the Panchayati Raj institutions. And it was not an agenda in the election manifesto of BJP.
Okay.
And then, first of all, they tried to get it in through the ordinance. Then the ordinance was stayed by the Punjab and Haryana High Court. Then they included agenda item in the assembly agenda as the last agenda of that assembly agenda.
Okay.
They got it passed at 8:30 in the evening. They got it signed by the governor at 9:30.
Yes.
And on 8th of September in the morning, they issued a notification for the elections and for the amendment simultaneously, which means that you are not allowing the people to have a participation in
That's
the
right.
debate.
Yes.
Because these issues concern their rights and their spirit in a big way.
Yeah.
And they have tried to get the things put to ensure that there should be no
Opposition to it, and they just
no
go
opposition
ahead
to
easily.
it on the
Yeah.
road
All
as
right.
well as at the legal level.
All right, Mr. Rai, I can see you a bit amused by this discussion right now. If you could, yes,
See,
add in.
there are two components of electoral process.
Yes.
One is right to vote. You have voters at large who have been given right to vote. Another component is right to get elected, right to field yourself as a candidate. Now, so far right to vote is concerned, that has not been withdrawn from anybody on the ground of educational qualification. That has to be kept in mind.
Okay.
The only restriction that has been imposed is that those who want to represent at the panchayat level and other levels, they should have minimum qualification.
All right, Ms. Sangwan has something on that, yeah?
Yes, I want to point out that the voters have been checked to elect the candidate of their choice.
Yes.
Because if 75% people they cannot contest the elections, then it means they are being deprived of their best choices.
Of more candidates.
More candidates.
That's
yes.
right. Yes, absolutely. Because politics is not, politics obviously not just becoming an MP or an MLA, it is actually representing the people.
That is the basic spirit of democracy,
Yes.
which is being hurt.
So now to continue from where I had left.
Yes.
So the two components are there. One is the component of the voters, another is the component of those who want to contest elections. Now what is the nature of this right that has to be seen? Is it a fundamental right or it's a constitutional right? The courts have said it is constitutional right. The earlier understanding was it is a statutory right. But it is not a fundamental right. Now, what are the restrictions which are being imposed? The restrictions which are being imposed have been provided under the Constitution itself, that qualifications can be laid down. And what are those qualifications? You have to be a matriculate for the general candidates. For females, it is they should pass 7th class. For SCs, STs, it is middle, yes, 7th, that is middle. For SCs, STs, it is 5th class.
8th is middle.
8th is middle, sorry,
Yes.
I stand corrected to that extent, 7th pass. So, now qualifications are not
And
that
the
complex.
third one is
Dalit women,
for
class
Dalit
5.
Class five, yes.
only for the post of Panch, not for the post of Sarpanch, Jila Parishad or Block Smiti. This
Okay.
is the whole play
Now-
here.
Now, you see, if you see the educational qualifications, they are not so high that it would be eliminating people at large. Still, there would be representation all over, but only consideration would be that they should have that minimum qualification. And the reason is very simple to understand. Now, if you have those qualifications, you are able to understand the nuances of day-to-day affairs. You have to deal with judicial powers as Sarpanch. You have to deal with the administrators also. So these qualifications would help you in the long run. So it can't be seen as if it is depriving people of their right to have their choice as their representatives. Because even otherwise, take the example of qualifications other than educational qualifications, like age restrictions. There are several restrictions which are there. We have accepted it because it is through the process that you filter your candidates and who can represent you. So ultimately, there are certain expectations with the people who are going to represent you in public life. So I don't think that this is violative of any constitutional right as such, because these distinctions are inherent in the positions they are going to hold.
Okay. It in a way it makes it easier for the candidate to go ahead, move ahead in the future as well. Is that something, Mr. Acharya, that, if you look at it in the broader sense, maybe maybe in the small level, the educational qualifications may not be that important, but as the person rises further, in the larger scale of the politics and how it goes out, maybe then, it may be a hindrance to that particular person. So why not check it from the first step itself? Is that one way to look at it as well?
See, the point is that, certainly some kind of educational qualification is required for one to be an effective member of either the assembly or parliament. That is there. But at the same time, now there is one reality which one has to understand. The reality is that, as my fellow panelist has said, that a very large number of, I don't know, I have not studied the percentage part of it, but I would say I can say safely that a very large percentage of people at the grassroots level get excluded from this process. So that is the effect of it. Well, on the one hand, I do agree that there is need for a certain qualification, certain educational qualification. But at the same time, how will you tackle this issue? Of course, I have not looked into the statistics of it, but the point is that if a large number of people, particularly people belonging to the vulnerable sections of the society, get excluded from this process, then that will be a very serious issue. So that needs to be addressed. Well, the Supreme Court has given a particular its own reasoning about it, and in fact, this issue is not new. This was discussed many times in the past. But here now there is a situation where the panchayat member requires a certain amount of qualification, whereas the members of the assembly and parliament, don't require that.
That's what.
It's a very anomalous kind of situation. Maybe at some later stage, the government at the center may think about bringing about some kind of educational
if you
requirements.
actually hear the opposition voices, they're saying if it goes to the BJP, if it's up to them,
in the
a lot of
Representation of
states,
People
in
Act
fact,
and all that, maybe they will bring about some amendments and all that.
Yes.
In democracy, we have to honor the will of citizens and people. Earlier also there was no ban for educated candidates. They were allowed to contest the elections. And we should leave it up to the will of our citizens whether they want to elect the educated representatives or they want to elect the people whom they feel they are more closer to their heart and their issues. So let us not take it in this way that educated people were not allowed earlier. They were allowed, but now as a result of these conditions, suppose for a toilet, for the electricity bills, for the agricultural cooperative society bills, there are laid down procedures to get those bills encashed from the citizens. How the election commission can be made to collect the electricity bills and this agricultural loan, and at the same time when the condition of offense on the part of an individual, in case of MLAs and MPs, it is when individual is convicted for a certain crime, whereas in this condition they have imposed when the individual has been charged sheeted only. He won't be able to contest the elections.
Oh, okay. Mr. Rai.
I see it as a trend setter for electoral reforms in the country.
Okay.
Right up to the parliamentary level. Things are going to change and things are going to improve.
Yes.
Because once you have these educational qualifications as necessary for contesting elections, it can be applied at different levels as well. And this is ultimately in the interest of Indian politics that we have educated people representing us all over. Now, so far Supreme Court is concerned, Supreme Court was aware of the fact that it would restrict the number of people who are going to contest.
Yes.
Even then, it found that it would be in the larger interest of the electoral politics that education is made as a necessary qualification, so that we have people who can represent us effectively.
And look at it the other way, Ms. Sangwan. I mean, this would also encourage families to send their children to school, perhaps more. In fact, also not just children, even the elders. I mean, do you not see it as a way that perhaps the elders will now enroll in these evening schools or night schools that we have for the grown-ups? This is also a way to promote education in a sense. Could
Yes.
that not be seen in that way as well?
Yes, it can be seen in that way also. First of all, I want to address the arguments placed by the earlier
Rai,
speaker.
yes, yeah.
He said that it will prove as a trendsetter. If you want to set the trends, then it should start from the top, from the parliament and from the assembly. Then it should have been in the manifesto of BJP. And then the Honorable Supreme Court, I'm saying this with a very heavy heart, that the whole data which is said to be based on the census of 2011, it has been manipulated in a way by the state government, and Honorable Supreme Court has allowed it. And they have consistently tried to hide and conceal the fact that exclusion is more than 75%, whereas they are saying that it is 43%, which is a misleading and blatant lie on the part of state government and these people who are advocating it.
Yeah,
and anybody on the basis of 2011 census, anybody can calculate. And why the Honorable Supreme Court did not had it on its own calculations? Why they depended on the calculations given by the state government, and they did
Mr. Rai,
not
very quickly,
consult our data at all.
All right.
See, rural politics unfortunately has been politics of proxies. We have seen that the representatives are working as proxies for somebody else. Like we have heard that Mukhya Patis,
Yes.
whether the ladies, they contested the elections, but in fact the things were controlled by the husbands.
Yes.
There have been situations where somebody has come and he has been propped up by some powerful lobby. Since he couldn't contest himself, he has fielded somebody else.
All right.
And then controlling the whole things. The education would ensure that these unnecessary controls are removed from the grassroots level. That is how I look at it.
Regarding the
Very
proxy,
quickly, just 30
regarding
seconds. I'm running
proxy
short of time.
representation,
Yes.
I want to point out that the women organizations and people at large, they have been demanding that only those individuals who have been elected, they should be allowed to take part in the functioning of Panchayati Raj institutions. It is the authorities who have been allowing their husbands to sit over there formally in the meeting.
Okay, Mr. Achary,
When
very
I
quickly.
said educational qualification will be required,
Yes.
or may be required, I did not mean that all the educated people are very good human beings compared to the illiterates. That's not the case at all. Point is that a certain amount of educational background is required for people to understand the process of lawmaking in these bodies. As I said in the beginning, it's a very complex process. So in order to be able to understand this process, one must have a certain educational background.
Basic. All right.
Base.
All right.
So that is what I say. Only from that point of view, I say that educational qualifications is required.
Okay. Last word to you, ma'am. Yes.
Then we can go for capacity building programs also, training for the representatives who have been elected.
Okay, that's of course the road forward. That's of course the road forward. And like we are saying, the next Lok Sabha elections are of course 2019. Who knows, by then, this may be mandatory for several other levels as well that we'll be seeing for our MPs as well. For the moment, of course, that's all the time I have for you here on The Big Picture. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with another topic tomorrow. Thank you.